Hello everyone, welcome to the Six Path Weeb channel. Today, we're diving into part 3 of our ongoing fanfiction series, What If Naruko Was the True Uchiha Heir? Disclaimer. The content shared on this channel is intended purely for entertainment and discussion purposes. I do not claim ownership of any anime footage used in this video. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Let's begin. Naruko stayed silent, thinking, can I ever catch a break? She calmly removed the chopsticks from the person's fingers and resumed eating. Are you going to answer my question or not, youngster? The voice behind her asked. Naruko turned to face the person who had interrupted her meal and sighed inwardly. Standing there was none other than the renowned Jiraiya the Toad Sage, easily recognized by his long white hair and striking presence. It's not surprising that he would discover how the Akatsuki look, Asura commented within her thoughts, and Naruko silently agreed. The entire room's attention was on the two ninjas facing off in tense silence. Jiraiya-sensei, what's the issue now? You just returned from a mission and you're already stirring things up, Minato said, approaching with a group of Konoha ninja. Minato, remember that mysterious group we heard about, the one recruiting rogue ninjas? I ran into one of their members. They tried to recruit me, and now I know what they look like, Jiraiya said seriously. Minato pieced the situation together and turned toward the group he had been treating to lunch. Apologies, everyone. Looks like duty calls again, he said with a gentle smile. He stepped between Jiraiya and Naruko, placed a hand on both their shoulders, and with a flash, the three vanished. What just happened? Naruko exclaimed, holding her stomach from the abrupt teleportation. She turned toward the two elite ninjas. Why did you bring me here? You're suspected of being involved with that group I just mentioned, Minato explained as he sat behind his desk and dismissed the Anbu guards. What proof do you have that I'm part of them? Naruko asked, a confident smirk creeping onto her face. Minato looked to Jiraiya for an answer. The older man scratched the back of his head awkwardly. Well, the outfit you're wearing right now. I could have found this anywhere, Naruko replied quickly. With no solid evidence against her, she began walking toward the door. Well, since we're done here, I'll be going, she said, waving casually. Wait just a second, Naruko, Jiraiya said with a sudden smirk as Minato silently reached under his desk. Where did you get that ring? It looks like one of Kisame's. Minato suddenly threw a three-pronged kunai at Naruko, but she vanished in a puff of smoke. It was a clone, Minato said, eyes wide. He immediately summoned Anbu to begin a search for the real Naruko. Meanwhile, the real Naruko was running swiftly away from the village, heading toward the agreed meeting spot with Sin. She finally arrived at a quiet stream where Sin sat meditating peacefully. Sin Uchiha, a calm and composed young man with unruly black hair and deep-set eyes, opened his eyes as she approached. You're finally here, Sin said in his usual cool tone. Naruko shot him a glare. I might not be able to return for the finals, she sighed, beginning to explain what had happened. Konoha has grown overly confident. They probably don't expect you back. And even if you do return, it's unlikely they'll try anything with visiting cage present, Sin said, standing and meeting Naruko's gaze. Naruko's Sharingan activated unconsciously, locking eyes with Sin. I still don't understand your frustration toward me, Sin commented quietly after a pause. Naruko remained silent. It's good to see you've awakened both Mangekyo Sharingan. Now your training can truly progress. Then let's focus on that instead of talking, Naruko replied, her face unreadable. Before we start, there's news from Leader Sama, Sin added, gaining her attention. Kisame and Danzo were tasked with retrieving the four tails. There were difficulties. And unfortunately, the mission failed. Also, rebel forces in Kiri have prevented the retrieval of the three tails. Naruko took a moment to process the information. How long until the four tails can be recovered? Leader Sama estimates around 3 years. We're to use that time for training and gathering resources, unless he calls for us. 3 years. That's manageable, Naruko thought. Alright. Let's train hard before the month ends. When the finals come, I'll return to ensure no harm comes to the QB's host, she said, her true motive kept to herself. Sin nodded, and the two left together. 1 month later. The grand arena was filled with eager spectators, awaiting the Chunin exam finals. In the center of the field stood 12 contestants. Naruko had changed her appearance, now wearing black Anbu-style pants and a strapped sword, hoping to avoid unnecessary attention. Inside the cage box, Minato observed the unfamiliar black-haired contestant with a thoughtful expression. So, She actually came. Aniki, the third Tsuchikage, floated nearby. Despite his age, his presence was sharp and observant. He had come to support his granddaughter and meet with Minato. The fourth Raikage, a towering figure of strength, sat with pride, eager to see his son compete. Raza, the fourth Kazekage, sat nearby with quiet intensity. I can't wait to see Z dominate the competition, the Raikage said confidently. Minato smiled slightly. Raikage Dono, would you mind if I altered the matchups a bit? Go ahead, the Raikage said, assured of his son's strength. Minato stepped forward to address the crowd in the cage. Thank you all for joining us. Before we begin, there's a slight change. The first match will now be Z versus Naruko Uchiha. The crowd murmured in curiosity, wondering about this mysterious new contender. Naruko smirked at the chance to test her strength. The other Genin were moved to the viewing area while Naruko and Z remained. After being reminded of the rules, which were minimal, the match began. The two stood facing each other. Z held a sword crackling with dark lightning chakra. I was hoping to fight you after seeing your match with Gaara, he said, rushing forward in a blur. Naruko activated her Sharingan, blocking his first strike with her own blade. Their eyes locked. Z leapt back and activated his lightning armor, vanishing from sight only to reappear behind Naruko. She sensed the chakra and spun to block another hit. Their weapons clashed, both showing impressive skill. Naruko noticed a crack forming on Z's blade. He thought a basic sword could withstand this? With a surge of wind chakra, she sent a pulse through her weapon. Z's eyes widened, dodging just in time as his blade shattered. She sheathed her sword with a confident look, only to be struck by a surprise punch to the stomach, infused with lightning chakra. Z followed with a swift kick, sending Naruko sliding across the arena floor. Not bad, Naruko said under her breath, pushing herself up. Let's see how long you last, Z replied, energized by the challenge. The crowd cheered, captivated by the intense and skillful match between two powerful young shinobi. That's my girl, Z exclaimed proudly, his eyes gleaming with admiration. The others in the viewing area were equally astonished by Z's remarkable speed and strength. Seems like Naruko was more talk than talent, thought the fourth Kazekage silently. If she had faced my granddaughter Kurotsuchi, it would have ended swiftly, Aniki muttered with a slight edge of competitiveness. Minato smiled warmly and reassured the elder Kage, don't worry, Aniki Dono. Your granddaughter will have her moment soon. A collective gasp redirected their attention back to the arena. Z dashed toward the wall where Naruko had impacted moments earlier. He swung a fist toward her, but to his surprise, Naruko calmly caught it with her own hand. I really thought that last move would end it, Z thought, slightly disappointed. As he looked into Naruko's eyes, he found himself staring into her Mangekyo Sharingan. A ripple of gasps swept through the crowd as Z leapt back, only to be seized by a skeletal arm and flung across the arena. Naruko stepped calmly from the wall, brushing herself off. She's fast, Naruko thought, planning her next move. Sensing Z's chakra racing toward her, Naruko waited. Z appeared above her, hoping to catch her off guard. He smiled when she didn't move, only for her Susanoo's ribcage to intercept his kick. The illusionary Z vanished in a spark of lightning as dozens of chakra-enhanced shuriken were hurled from multiple directions. Cornered, Naruko activated one of her favorite techniques, Indra Burst. The shuriken all burst mid-air, dispersed by a focused explosion of chakra. Dash. Flashback. Naruko and Sin sat peacefully in a forest clearing, both meditating. Sin, can I ask something? Naruko said gently, breaking the silence. Does your Mangekyo Sharingan have a special jutsu? Sin opened his eyes and nodded. Yes, mine does. Why? I found out I have one, too, Naruko explained. When I used it, I said the name aloud. I've never heard anyone say it before. Sin leaned in with curiosity. That's because the ability is unique to you. Your chakra knows how to activate it when you need it most. Mine seems defensive. But I think I can make it offensive too. Mine isn't really ninjutsu, Sin replied cryptically. Naruko activated her eyes. Indra burst. She called. Nothing happened. Sin raised an eyebrow. I felt a faint chakra pulse trying to clash with mine, but it wasn't strong enough, he observed, throwing a kunai. Indra burst. Naruko called again, and the kunai exploded harmlessly in the air. Sin nodded. The jutsu amplifies your chakra to overwhelm a target's energy. If the target's chakra is stronger, it won't work. But that's useful knowledge. Naruko frowned slightly but appreciated the insight. Dash. The crowd roared in amazement as the shuriken had been neutralized effortlessly. Naruko glanced around, 3 identical versions of Z stood nearby. She pinpointed the real one instantly. You're fast, she acknowledged, unsheathing her sword, but your movements can't escape my eyes. She leapt toward the true Z. In the stands, Fugaku watched with pride. A true Uchiha. Minato-sama should really consider inviting her into the village officially. Nearby, Saren watched with quiet awe. Just before Naruko reached Z, he launched himself into the air. Rising drop, he shouted, aiming a double-footed strike down on Naruko. But she vanished in a puff of smoke. The real Naruko reappeared behind him and delivered a punch. They began a high-speed taijutsu exchange. Z landed more blows, and Naruko grunted as a punch to the stomach sent her flying. Z continued, striking at the clone with a rapid barrage. He stood back, assuming victory, until the figure dissolved in smoke. The real Naruko appeared with a glowing black Chidori in hand, which struck Z in the chest. It faded without serious injury but left him stunned. It was a great battle, Naruko said sincerely, I'm glad I had the chance to face someone like you. Z collapsed, and medics quickly moved in to assist him as Naruko was announced the winner. Dash. The Kazekage smirked. Now is the perfect moment, he thought, leaping from his seat. With a signal, feathers began to fall gently from the sky. Kazekage Dono, what's going on? Minato asked, reaching inside his cloak. Enough nonsense, the Kazekage growled, tearing off his disguise to reveal Orochimaru beneath. Snakes lunged from his sleeves, but A intercepted them with a flash of lightning-charged movement. Aniki hovered near Minato. Konoha has grown stronger. A Dono and I considered action. But after the war, we realized collaboration benefits us all more, Aniki said. We will support you in this battle as a sign of alliance. Minato nodded in gratitude. As the battle moved to the rooftop, Orochimaru summoned 4 coffins with a dramatic flair. From them emerged Hashirama, Tobirama, Mito, and Shisui Uchiha. Hiruzen Sarutobi arrived on the scene, shocked to see his old teachers. Sarutobi-sama, Minato began, we'll take care of the summoned shinobi, please handle Orochimaru. Naruko, now wearing her Akatsuki cloak, landed near them. I'll assist against Orochimaru, she offered confidently. A scoffed, step aside, this battle is beyond your skill. If you struggled against my son, you won't handle this. I didn't use much chakra in that fight, Naruko replied calmly. I saved it, just in case. Sarutobi nodded, underestimating her. Don't worry. We'll handle it. Naruko glanced at him. Just don't get in my way. Orochimaru chuckled. You're bold, Naruko. Then a voice broke the tension. Uchiha Naruko? A teen stepped forward, Shisui. Naruko was stunned. My name is Shisui Uchiha. I know it's sudden, but I'm your older sibling, he said gently. Naruko's breath caught, but the moment was cut short as Orochimaru activated the reanimation jutsu again. Shisui and Naruko were forced to clash in a dazzling kenjutsu duel. I'm curious, Naruko asked mid-fight, why would he summon you without your Sharingan? Shisui smiled. Probably to face Minato-sama, he answered, disappearing and reappearing behind her with incredible speed. Fire style, fireball jutsu. Fire style, flame stream. Naruko's flames overpowered Shisui's, and she turned to deflect his sword. Where's our sister? Shisui asked. She's safe. She doesn't know about me yet. But I plan to tell her once I've grown strong enough to protect everyone. She'll find out soon, Shisui replied, smiling. Especially after I just said that out loud. Their blades clashed again, but Shisui's body began to flicker. Orochimaru's chakra is fading, Shisui realized. Naruko's blade glowed with wind chakra, shattering Shisui's weapon. I need to tell you something, Shisui said as his form faded. I lost my eyes to a man named Danzo. He took them from me. I fought with Sin, and even though I couldn't see, I believed in my team. If I had my vision, maybe we would have won. Naruko's eyes widened. I promise, big brother, I'll make sure Danzo is held accountable. I'll protect our family. Shisui smiled once more before vanishing into light. Dash. Back on the battlefield, Naruko summoned a Fuma Shuriken imbued with both wind and lightning chakra. The conflicting elements made it wildly powerful. Only one shot at this, she thought. She hurled it toward Orochimaru, but he and Sarutobi jumped out of the way. A disguised Auto Shinobi interfered, knocking Sarutobi into its path. It grazed him harshly as Orochimaru escaped with his guards. "Sarutobi-sensei," someone shouted. Above Naruko, a presence appeared. She turned, but too late. A strike from behind knocked her unconscious as everything went black. Naruko slowly opened her eyes, vision blurred as she tried to regain her senses. She attempted to move but realized she was restrained. Carefully lifting her head, she noticed she was shackled to the wall and couldn't sense her chakra, which meant communication with Asura was impossible for the moment. "So you're finally awake," a voice said, prompting Naruko to turn her head toward the sound. She saw the familiar figure of Anko standing beside Ibiki. As her senses sharpened, she glanced down to find herself dressed only in her pants, but otherwise unharmed. "We have some questions for you," Ibiki stated as he approached. "No one has been able to enter your mind. Your mental defenses are impressive." Naruko remained silent. Anko stepped in, her voice calm but firm. "Listen, kid. Just cooperate and tell us what we need to know. We'd all prefer to settle this peacefully." Naruko still didn't respond, and after a moment, Anko and Ibiki left the room to discuss their next steps. Naruko overheard part of their conversation. "I can't believe the Hokage actually asked us to interrogate a child," Anko murmured. "Anko, you know Naruko isn't just any child," Ibiki replied. "She might have important knowledge about the Akatsuki. The Hokage's children could be in danger, and Minato-sama is doing what he thinks is necessary to protect them." Naruko stayed quiet, thinking to herself. "Even if I choose a different path someday, I made a promise to the Akatsuki. I'm not going to hand over everything just because they're asking." She sighed inwardly. "Sin better get here soon. Who am I kidding? Sin's not the type to come rushing in." One day later. The Genin were gathered in a meeting with the Hokage to discuss the upcoming promotions to Chunin when Anko and Ibiki walked in, clearly frustrated. "Hokage-sama, we've tried everything. The child still won't speak," Anko said. "You can go check for yourself, she's uncooperative." The Genin understood from the tone that something serious was happening. Before the Hokage could respond, alarms blared throughout the building. An Anbu captain entered urgently. "Hokage-sama, Naruko has escaped." Minato rose quickly and gave orders to the Anbu, who moved out swiftly in pursuit. Back in the holding room, Naruko waited until Ibiki and Anko had left, leaving a young Chunin in training to watch over her. Naruko was exhausted and worn out. The Chunin seemed distracted, quietly reading a book and chuckling to herself. Suddenly, Naruko felt her restraints unlock. Before she could hit the ground, a vortex appeared and pulled her through. Cool water washed over her, soothing her body and restoring her chakra. Her energy returned, and she could feel her body healing. "Feels great to be back," Naruko thought. "Agreed," Asura's voice echoed in her mind. "What took you so long?" Naruko asked, voice raspy. "I had to settle things with the Uchiha and visit the Sarutobi household," Asura replied, expression unreadable. Naruko looked at him carefully. "What did you mean by that?" "Don't worry. I just delivered a gift. A symbolic one," he replied vaguely. Naruko was puzzled but let it go for now. "They're going to blame me for whatever happened, aren't they?" She sighed. "Let them," Sin replied, lifting her gently over his shoulder as she still couldn't walk properly. "Leader Sama has a new mission for us." And with that, they disappeared into another vortex. 1 month later. Sarin sat quietly, tears streaming down her cheeks as Sasuke comforted her. Today was her birthday, but the Hokage had given her a book that changed the tone of the day. The book lay open on the floor, turned to a profile page showing a young girl with striking hair and a distinctive cloak. Basic information. Name, Naruko Uchiha. Age, 13. Team/friends, unknown. Former village, born in Kanahagakure, disappeared during the incident involving the Nine Tails. Village rank, none. Biography, Naruko was born into the Uchiha clan, one of the most prestigious in the village. Known sibling is Sarin Uchiha. Bloodline, Sharingan. Status, classified individual associated with the Akatsuki. Criminal rank, S. Organization, Akatsuki. Wanted by, Kanahagakure, Sunagakure, Kumagakure, and Iwagakure, for detainment and questioning. 1 year later. Over the past year, Naruko had been training diligently. She once asked Asura why he hadn't yet taught her any advanced techniques. He would always reply, you need to understand something first before I can train you completely. Curiously, Naruko had never asked what exactly that something was. Asura did entrust her with the Black Hawk summoning contract. While the Black Hawks couldn't speak, they seemed to understand her intentions clearly whenever she summoned them. Through ancient stone tablets, they taught her how to harness their version of Sage Mode. This special form enhanced Naruko with large, black raven-like wings, sharper vision, increased speed and strength, and the ability to sense natural chakra around her. Naruko woke up one morning in her room at the Cage Tower in Amigakure, a room offered to her by Pain. As she stretched, she noticed something odd. Her limbs felt smaller. Curious, she glanced at her arms and hands, puzzled. "Why do I feel so tiny?" she murmured. She rushed to the full-length mirror and gasped. Staring back at her was the reflection of her 8-year-old self. She activated her Sharingan to check for any illusion-based trickery. "No genjutsu," she confirmed aloud. Then she peered out the small window. And not time travel, either. Glancing down at her clothing, she noticed her underclothes were no longer the right fit. With a sigh, she headed into the bathroom to complete her morning routine before slipping into her Akatsuki cloak. "There's a strange chakra in the air," Asura's voice echoed in her mind. Naruko frowned. How hadn't she sensed it before? Before she could ask further, there was a knock at the door. A girl entered, carrying a pair of Onbu-style black pants and new undergarments. The girl, slightly shorter than Naruko, had waist-length orange hair and features resembling both Nagato and Konan. Her name was Yahika, the daughter of Nagato and Konan. Though Nagato and Konan shared a deep sibling-like bond, they agreed to bring a child into the world to carry on their legacy in case their vision didn't succeed. With a small blush on her serious face, Yahika looked at young Naruko. "Father Sama said there's strange chakra in the air, and many people around 16 and under have turned back into their 8-year-old forms. You were 10 before this happened, right?" Naruko asked. Yahika nodded. "Well, at least I'm not alone in this. Father Sama says the chakra is increasing, but slowly. The rest of the group is discussing it now. They asked me to bring you," Yahika explained, handing her the clothes before heading out. After getting dressed, Naruko strapped her sword, Urashi, to her back and took one last look in the mirror. Her now black hair was messily spiked, and without her Sharingan, she looked completely different than her older self. As she walked toward the meeting room, she sighed. "This jutsu's going to be a handful," she muttered. Inside, all the members looked up as she entered. Kisame and Datara gave friendly nods. "Take a seat, Naruko," Pain said from his high-backed chair. "The chakra is visible to me, but not to Sin. It's growing, but at a slow pace. I believe whoever cast this transformation jutsu is gathering energy, perhaps to affect older shinobi. If more of us revert to children, it could disrupt our techniques, especially those involving sealing. Sasori should be safe since his body is artificial. Hidan and Kakuzu are unlikely to be affected for similar reasons," Pain added, contemplating. "Which is why I want you and Yahika to investigate. Orochimaru is no longer a suspect, thanks to Sasori's visit. We're unsure whether the caster is even within the elemental nations. The rest of us have pressing tasks to complete. I believe in your capability to uncover something important," Pain concluded, tossing her a forehead protector bearing a unique spiral emblem. "That might come in handy." "When do we leave?" Naruko asked, excitement bubbling beneath her calm expression. "In 5 minutes. Yahika's already waiting at the gates," Pain replied. As Naruko turned to leave, someone called out. "Wait, Naruko-senpai," cried Tobi, waving. Most thought he was just backup, but Naruko knew him as Obito Uchiha, the hidden strategist behind Akatsuki. "Be careful. And have a good time," he added with exaggerated cheer. Naruko ignored the comment and returned to her room to seal a few essentials into scrolls, mostly travel funds and useful supplies. She placed her Akatsuki ring inside one of the scrolls for safekeeping, then headed to the front gate where Yahika waited. Both were determined to prove their worth. Meanwhile, in Konoha, the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, finished addressing a room full of young ninja, now transformed back into 8-year-olds, the Konoha 15, their sensei's, and Sai, a quiet, pale boy. The Hokage assigned the investigation mission to Kakashi Hatake as commander, with Itachi Uchiha as second-in-command. Sasuke, having returned from a successful year-long infiltration mission within Orochimaru's hideouts, stood silently. His presence, like others, had changed after long periods of training. Sarin, Sasuke's girlfriend, had trained tirelessly at the Uchiha compound. Together with Menma and Shikamaru, Sasuke had earned the Chunin title. All of them were back in their 8-year-old bodies, transformed by the mysterious chakra in the air. The Konoha Council believed they were somehow connected to solving this odd phenomenon. Kakashi gathered the young group. Listen up. We've got 2 months to find a clue. If we don't, we return. Group up with your mentors and follow my lead. Be alert. They set out and soon met reinforcements from Kumo and Iwa, including Z, Amoe, Karu, and Kurotsuchi, who chuckled at the large group. After greeting Kakashi respectfully, they continued toward a forest where Menma erected a sound barrier for privacy. Kakashi turned serious. We've ruled out Orochimaru, thanks to Jiraiya's findings. That leaves us with Akatsuki as our leading theory. Everyone quieted. For many, Naruko's face appeared in their minds, her unique Sharingan a reminder of her mysterious alignment. For Kurotsuchi, it was Deidara who came to mind. We're not sure what turning people into children would accomplish, said Shikamaru, taking the lead. But it must be significant. Until we encounter an Akatsuki member, this remains speculation. Some of the group grew nervous. Others, like Z, looked ready to prove themselves. I've got a personal grudge, Z muttered. We'll try to avoid direct encounters with Akatsuki, Kakashi said firmly. Now, Menma, Sasuke, explain what you discovered. Sasuke could see the unique chakra through Indra's Sharingan. Menma, thanks to Kurama's sensory powers, could feel its presence more broadly. The chakra's stronger in specific regions, Menma explained. I'll mark the spots Kurama guided me to. He carefully added 4 marks to a large map, locations in the Land of Iron and the Land of Snow. In total, we'll investigate 8 places. We start with the Land of Iron. When we arrive, I'll divide you into teams. If trouble arises, follow my lead, Kakashi said. Itachi summoned a raven to notify the Land of Iron of their approach. The group set up tents for rest, sharing watch duties. Inside one tent, Sasuke gently ran his fingers through Sarin's hair while she lay beside him, and Menma rested nearby, thinking deeply. Kurama says he can't feel Asura's chakra anymore, Menma said quietly. Indra says the same, Sasuke replied with a furrowed brow. Sarin remained silent, eyes focused on the tent ceiling. Where are you, sister? She thought, an image of Naruko appearing in her mind. Naruko sat down on a tree stump, the black markings around her eyes beginning to fade. I really thought Sage Mode would help me sense the chakra, she reflected. Maybe it's a unique type of chakra that's harder to detect. She could almost hear Asura chuckle in her mind. Don't worry, I can sense it. I'll guide you. Naruko entered the tent they had set up, where Yahiko was meditating peacefully. Yahika, I've identified 8 locations where the chakra feels stronger, Naruko informed her. Yahika didn't question how Naruko sensed it. She simply stood up and looked at her companion. All right, then let's get moving, she said. As she spoke, the tent folded itself into countless sheets of paper and absorbed into Yahika's body. Before they set off, Naruko spoke again. We're heading to the Land of Iron. Once we arrive, I need to stop somewhere first to have a weapon crafted. Yahika nodded. You can have one made, too. I'll cover the cost, Naruko added with a warm smile. Yahika returned the smile with a small blush. They began traveling quickly through the trees. Yahika, Naruko said as they moved, if we run into any unknown ninja, we shouldn't use our real names. Let me do the talking, I'll come up with something on the spot. I'm not sure if I'm still recognized from the bingo book, but if not, it could work in our favor. Naruko could sense Yahika's unease, even though she tried to mask it. If you're nervous about your first mission or being away from the village, don't be, Naruko reassured her gently. I'll make sure we both return safely. Thank you, Naruko, Yahika replied with gratitude in her voice. After several days of travel, they finally reached the Land of Iron. Standing at the border, they could feel the cooler winds despite it being summer. Yahika wore a special chakra-insulated cloak to stay warm, while Naruko relied on her own chakra control for comfort. The blacksmith village you're looking for should be nearby, Asura said in her mind. Naruko led Yahika into the guarded village. Samurai stood at attention near the gate. What are shinobi doing in the Land of Iron? One of the guards questioned. Naruko raised her hands calmly. We're just here to hire a blacksmith. Let them in, came a voice from behind. A man in white samurai armor with a long white beard and a stern expression stepped forward. Captain Shin. The guards saluted in unison. We don't turn away peaceful visitors, especially paying ones, Shin stated. If they cause trouble, deal with it immediately, he added in a commanding voice. Turning to Naruko, he asked, "How old are you, young one?" 13. "And yes, this is the result of a unique jutsu," she replied. Shin gave a short nod and allowed them inside. Naruko observed the diverse crowd with curiosity. The land of iron. A neutral territory, she mused. Whoever used that jutsu probably thought this would be the last place anyone would search. Soon, they reached a large building titled Shin's Blacksmith. Lots of people named Shin around here, Naruko thought, amused. She entered with Yahika following close behind. A bell rang as the door opened. "I'll be right there," came a voice from the back. A tall man in samurai gear stepped out, looking much like Captain Shin. "Are you related to Captain Shin?" Yahika asked politely. "Yep. He's my father." "Long line of Shins in this place," the man replied, scratching the back of his head with a chuckle. "So, what can I help you two with?" he asked after a pause. Naruko pulled out a piece of paper and began sketching a design resembling a fan-like object, the gun by. The blacksmith raised an eyebrow. "You an Uchiha?" "No, not at all. I just have a strong wind affinity, so this design would be useful," Naruko said, glossing over the full truth. The blacksmith nodded, clearly skeptical but not pressing further. Turning to Yahika, Naruko asked, "What kind of weapon would you like?" She avoided using Yahika's name. Yahika considered it for a moment before shaking her head. "I don't need one. I have a technique that fits my style." The blacksmith calculated the cost and estimated the weapon would be ready in about 10 days. Naruko paid half the price up front, and they left the village to investigate the first chakra source. From a nearby hill, they looked down at a small village where smoke curled into the sky. Naruko felt two strong chakra signatures approaching from about 20 minutes away. Though not as skilled a sensor as Asura, she could still tell they were likely from Konoha. "Asura, I need to suppress your chakra flow. Konoha might have sent investigators." "Understood. If you need me, just call," Asura responded, going quiet as Naruko masked his energy. "Yahika, it looks like this village may have been attacked, and the officials haven't noticed yet. It's small, probably with limited protection. Let's go," Naruko instructed as she leapt down. Yahika followed, her body transforming into fluttering sheets of paper. "We have to move quickly. I can feel the Konoha shinobi getting closer," Naruko said, splitting up from Yahika once they entered. Inside the village, Naruko noticed a peculiar energy in the air. "There's something strange here. Maybe a barrier." In the village center stood a statue of a serene woman holding a clock. Made of silver like metal, the craftsmanship captured her beauty, long hair and graceful features. Waves of chakra radiated from the clock. Naruko activated her Sharingan and detected the energy gathering in the clock itself. She sensed no other life nearby except Yahika. She climbed up and removed the clock surprisingly easily. Moments later, Yahika appeared beside her, holding scrolls. With a quick nod, the two returned to the hill they had scouted from. "I need to remove that statue," Naruko said as she sat and began preparing a powerful jutsu. Yahika recognized the signs immediately. Meanwhile, Kakashi, Mina, Mito, Sakura, Asuma, Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji rushed toward the smoking village. They paused as dark clouds formed overhead. "Wait," Kakashi ordered. "I recognize that chakra signature." Suddenly, black lightning danced through the sky in a magnificent display. Loud thunder roared as lightning rained down, focused on the heart of the village. The team stared in shock. "What was that?" Mito exclaimed. "The Akatsuki must be eliminating traces of their activity," Kakashi said seriously. Everyone turned toward the cliff, where they had heard the jutsu's caster yell. "Whoever it is. They're good at masking their presence," Kakashi thought. He bit his thumb, performed hand signs, and summoned 3 small ninkin, each wearing a Konoha headband. "Yo, Kakashi, Asuma, and everyone else," one greeted. "No time for chatter," Kakashi said, handing a scroll to the smallest dog. "Find the others and bring them here." "Got it, boss." They barked and dashed away. "How can you be sure it was Akatsuki?" Ino asked. "With experience, you begin to memorize chakra patterns. Some shinobi can conceal their chakra so well, they're nearly invisible until they act," Kakashi explained. They carefully examined the village remains. The only thing of interest was a deep crater in the center. Deciding it was time to regroup, they set out to meet with the rest of their team. Naruko was breathing heavily, beads of sweat on her forehead. Her smaller frame wasn't yet accustomed to the intense level of effort she had just exerted. We need to take a short break. My chakra control slipped a bit, probably because of this new form, Naruko said, motioning to her smaller physique. They were both walking through the village currently overseen by Shin. In the distance, they noticed samurai hurrying out of the area, clearly in a rush. They must have discovered something, Yahika commented, likely referring to the ruins of the village they had passed earlier. Naruko simply nodded in agreement, and the two of them made their way to a local inn, where they rented a single room for the night. Naruko took a seat on the floor near the bed, settling into a calm, meditative position. She let out a gentle sigh. Nearly half her chakra had been spent performing the technique earlier. "What's wrong, Naruko?" Yahika asked with concern, as she changed into more comfortable clothes for the night. "That jutsu took a lot of chakra," Naruko admitted, reflecting quietly to herself. "Without Asura's help, it was even harder than I thought." Yahika sat down beside her, leaning her head gently on Naruko's shoulder. "Next time, use your sage mode. I'll keep the Konoha shinobi occupied while you prepare." Naruko considered the suggestion. Sage mode took some time to activate, but it was incredibly effective, and with Yahika buying her the time she needed, it would definitely be a smarter strategy. She gave a small nod of agreement. As Yahika dozed off with her head resting in Naruko's lap, Naruko remained awake, keeping watch. She wanted to sleep, too, but knowing that Kakashi was aware she was in the land of iron, she decided to stay alert, just in case. No point in hiding Asura anymore, Naruko thought. Moments later, she felt Asura's energy begin to stir within her. The presence gently accessed her memories. "You won't need to enter sage mode to use that jutsu now that I'm here," Asura assured her. "Good," Naruko responded. "I'll let Yahika know in the morning that I figured out the issue. Turns out my gravity seals were interfering with my chakra control." "Don't forget," Asura added, "you don't need sage mode to use the wings." Naruko agreed silently, then carefully moved Yahika to the bed and laid down beside her, eyes fixed on the ceiling in quiet thought. "I wonder who could be behind all of this," she mused. "That statue. It reminds me of someone I haven't seen in a very long time." Dear YouTube community, that concludes today's content. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to support the channel. Thank you for your time and continued support. 6 Path Weeb.